So now that are officially recording, it is 12/27/22. This is the beginning of week 2. It's actually Tuesday, and it's the beginning of week 2 of ITT. And so I appreciate everybody for coming in. I see, Andrew said he was out in the middle of nowhere. When I go visit my mother, I'm usually out in the middle of nowhere. She just in November got real internet. They finally dropped fiber out to her house. The local electric company's doing it. So yes, I was so happy because she's been sick for a while, and she's feeling better, but she's in the hospital for like a week. And then so every week I was driving to Missouri and spending like 4 days to keep an eye on her. So I'd have to get up and I'd make sure she had breakfast and everything was good, and I'd go and I'd drive into town and sit at McDonald's and work for like 3 or 4 hours and load back up and go back and make sure she had lunch and make sure she was all taken care of. Then I drive back to McDonald's and I did that for like 3 weeks. So it was terrible. So let's look at my screen. Everyone can see, I assume. Awesome. Okay, the assignments for week 2, we've got assignments 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3. This is all Excel. So Excel I love. This is where I get excited and all geek out over it. Alexa, office lights on. Any better? Maybe. So the first assignment is, excuse me. Sold by Amazon for 10 years. Alexa, stop. The first assignment is 2-1. This is modifying columns, rows, and cells. Just a quick reminder, who here has worked in Excel before? Jessica was a no, I believe. I remember. Andrew does it every day, so you won't have a problem with this. And Jamari has, so you guys will not have a problem. Well, let's watch this video. And before I forget, I must share my sound. If I can find the button. There it is. There's the there's right there. For the charity fundraiser. Oh, you did it in Excel. Okay. I'll look at it. Share sound. There we go.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
Okay.
In Excel, every workbook is different. That means you may want to modify certain things, like the size and layout of your cell, to better fit the data you're working with. This column has been resized, for example, but not quite enough. Most of the text is still getting cut off. I'm going to increase the width a little bit more by positioning my mouse over the line in the column heading, then clicking and dragging it to the right. Another option is to auto-size the column. This will automatically adjust the width so that it fits the contents of the cells exactly. Just double-click the line instead of dragging it. Now the column is perfectly sized to the text. Rows work the same way. You can adjust them manually or auto-size them to fit the height of your text. Sometimes it's useful to be able to resize all of your cells at once. In this example, I'd like to make all of my rows the exact same height. To do this, click the Select All button in the top left corner. Then resize a row, it doesn't matter which one, and the change will be applied to the entire worksheet. Next, I need to add another row to this list. I'd like to put it in between row 4 and row 5. To add a new row, all you have to do is select the row heading below where you want the new one to appear. Then click the Insert command. The process is similar for inserting a new column. Just select the column heading to the right of where you want the new one to go. Click the Insert command, and a column will appear to the left. Deleting columns and rows is just as easy. First, select the column or row you want to delete, then click the Delete command. The column or row will be deleted, causing the other cells to move and fill in the gap automatically. Just remember that there's a difference between clearing and deleting. Deleting cells removes them from your worksheet. Clearing just removes the contents. You can also move a column or row to a different location. In this example, we'll move a column. All you have to do is select the one you want, then click the Cut command. Next, select the column to the right of where you want the column to be moved. Click the Insert drop-down menu on the ribbon, then choose Insert Cut Cells. Another useful technique for rearranging data is the ability to hide certain columns or rows. For example, I don't really need to see these 3 columns right now. I'd rather focus on the customer's email addresses. If we right-click, then choose Hide from the menu, the columns temporarily disappear. To unhide them, select the columns on either side of the ones that are hidden, then right-click again, and choose Unhide. Let's fast forward to the finished worksheet. Next, I'd like to take a look at wrapping text, which is one way of addressing cells that contain more text than they can actually display. For example, I'd like to resize my column of addresses to about half its current size, but still be able to see the contents. We can do this using the Wrap Text command on the ribbon. As you can see, this displays the text on multiple lines. Now for the finishing touch, combining the cells in the top row so the title of my worksheet can be centered in a single large cell. To do this, select the cells you want to merge, then click the Merge and Center command. There, that's perfect. To access more merge options, open the drop-down menu here. You can merge across, creating merged rows instead of a single large cell if you have multiple cells selected. You can also merge without centering, or split your cells up again. There is a downside to using the Merge command, though. If you want to merge multiple cells, each containing data, Merge will only keep the contents of the upper left cell and discard everything else. So you should be careful when using this feature. The best way to learn about merging cells, wrapping text, and working with columns and rows is to practice. So the next time you're using Excel, look for ways that you can customize your worksheet to better fit your data.
Hey Steven, I don't know if you're still muted, but I can't hear you at all on my screen on my computer.
Oh, okay. How about now? How about I start all over again? Because I just talked for like 3 minutes.
Sounds good, yeah.
It's going to be that kind of night. All right, so as you saw, up here tells you what cell you're in. It is by the columns will be letters, rows will be numbers, and theoretically, they go on forever. Now, you also, here's your sheet as well, and each sheet can be separate. There's an add button there. If I hit that, it'll just bring up a brand new sheet. They call it sheet 1. I don't know why they call it that. Should be sheet 2. That's a little weird. And then you can put whatever you need to in it. You can also, a lot of stuff they show you how to do on here. You can also use shortcuts or the right click button. One of the first, so in order to make this thing look right, here, let me back up here. I kind of got my, by not putting my stuff on, I kind of got off. So I just, whatever you type in here, it's going to see it as text. And I don't know how to spell my own name again. Okay, it's just going to text. But what this really is made for is to do math. It loves to do math. If you want it to do math, you need to turn it into a formula. And the way Excel knows you're going to do a formula is the way they teach you is you start everything out with an equal sign. And then you're going to use whatever command it is. And we'll go through that later. So just know there's a big difference between just typing something in and then wanting to actually do the math for you. Now, what we want this thing here to look like is, first things first, let's go to where it says font. And there is a drop-down menu here for your borders. And we can just put borders around it. Put borders around everything. And if you notice, it put borders around what I have highlighted. So I could do that down here as well. See, now the most useful thing that they made in Excel is this back button. So if you do something like, you hit that and it goes away. But if you say, oh shoot, I didn't mean to back up, then you can go forward again and redo it. So, you know, it keeps score on what you're doing so far. Some of the things you can do here is you can, and this is the way I like my things to look, so that's how I'm showing you guys. I like that stuff centered. I usually like to bold it. And you can, you know, shrink that down. And remember the merge and center as well here. Okay. And then they said, well, if the columns aren't lined up right, because you're where it's cutting things off here, there's a few ways to do it. Number one, you just go in between these two columns, double click, it spreads it out to the right width anyway. Now, if you have a whole bunch of stuff and and that happens a lot when you download spreadsheets. Like I downloaded a bunch of voter information today, and I was trying to sort through it and create a walk list. So when I canvass this next month, and it looks something like this, it's all crammed together. Okay, there's two ways. You can, right here in the top left corner, that's the select all. So it selects everything on the page everywhere. Another way to do that is Control A, and it does that as well. So you have the Control A, select all, Control C for cut, Control X for, I'm sorry, Control C for copy, Control X for cut, and then Control V for paste. And so it works just like you would in Word or PowerPoint. So all the commands go all the way through the Microsoft Office suite. Now, once I select everything, I just pick one column and double click in between it. Doesn't matter which one. And it'll go ahead and spread it all out for me. and it makes it to the proper width. It'll take the longest the longest bit of information you have in whatever cell in that column, and that'll be, you know, there's your widest one here, widest one here, right here. So it makes everything the proper. Also, when you have numbers, you can change those numbers around. If you highlight these, when I say change them around, change formatting, rather. I'm going to right click, and I am going to go to format cells. Maybe. Why is that not working? Well, I've never seen that happen. Try that again. Right click. There we go. I don't know what that was all about. I may need to reboot my computer after this. So I can turn this into all sorts of cool stuff. I can change it into a number with 2 decimal places. I can turn it into currency. Okay, and you'll see the sample up here. Change them to date, time. So, and let's do something like that. Let's put in today's date, 12/27/22. And when I go to my format cells, I've highlighted that cell, and it's a date. Well, I can change it to different date formats. And I'll go ahead and change it for me as well. So we went from this to that just by formatting the cell and telling it what kind of date we want. Same thing with money. I put that in. See, not always, it sees as a date. So what I put in now, it sees as a date as well. But once again, I can go back and format and say, hey, I want that thing to be money. You see, now I have it under a date format. I can have it under currency. You can change how many decimal places and hit OK. And there it is. And there's also all these number commands here. See, do that, it adds a $sign. You can also do it in pounds if we like to. So all sorts of neat stuff this thing has. And I think that is all they wanted this to look like, right? They didn't do anything extra to it. Rewatch the video and make sure I don't tell you wrong. So this was pretty easy. This is like a 5-minute assignment. Once I'm done with it, I'm going to save it. Okay, once I've saved it, let's go back to, let me put this in student view so you can guys see how you guys need to do it. In order for me to grade it, you guys are going to have to upload it. So you can upload it from here. And downloads maybe. Yep. See, there's where I just saved it. Open it. Next. And bada bing, bada boom. That's what I'll see when I pull it up to grade it. And then you know, I can also, you know, here it is. I can also download it if I want to, if I need to from my end. But so that should not be. Yep. So then we have our next assignment here. Any questions or concerns? Everybody good? Okay. Well, let's get through this because I want to get to the final one, which is formulas, which is the one we want to work with. That's going to be once you learn how to just do all the basic stuff, the formulas are great, and they already have a bunch of them preloaded. If I can get to it, I'll show you guys how to figure out a payment on a car or house or whatnot, and things of that nature. And you'll be within a few dollars usually, because there's some stuff you may not know. Do they put the interest at the beginning of the month, at the end of the month? What day is your payment? And things like that. But you'll be able to come up really close in your payments. So I'll show you that if we can get through this.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
The look and feel of your workbook has a lot to do with the formatting choices you make. For example, let's add some formatting to this fitness chart. That'll make it easier to read and more visually appealing. We'll start by selecting the cell that contains Fitness Progress Chart and making the text bigger. In the Font group on the Home tab, locate the font size box. You can either type in the exact font size you want, or click the drop-down arrow to select a size. And you'll see a preview of the results as you go down the list. I think 24 looks good. Maybe we could go a little bigger though. Increase and decrease are two other options for quickly changing the size of your text. All you have to do is click the command and there we go. To change the actual font, click the drop-down arrow here. Then make your way down the list, and you'll get that live preview again. I think I'll go with this one. It's different, but it's still very easy to read, which makes it a good choice for a title. So, how about some color? To view your options, click the arrow next to the font color command. You can choose one of the theme colors here, or if you don't see anything you like, go ahead and select More Colors. This bright pink should look pretty good with the color scheme I have in mind. Another way to make your text stand out is to use bold, italic, and underlining. Bold should be a good choice in this example. Now the text really stands out and it's much easier to read. I think I'm ready to add some formatting to the rest of the worksheet. At a glance, it's kind of hard to tell the header row from the rest of the chart because it just isn't very distinct. We can easily fix that by giving the cells a unique fill color. All you have to do is open the menu next to the fill color command and make your choice. Dark gray should be a nice contrast to the pink we already used. Now I just need to change the color of this text to something lighter. You can also use cell styles to quickly apply different formatting in your workbook. Let's give it a try on the rest of our data here. When you're ready, click the Cell Styles command, then mouse over the styles for a preview, and click the one you want. At this point, you probably notice that adding a fill color to a cell range causes the line in between the cells to disappear. I'd like to change that by adding in some cell borders. Click the drop-down arrow next to the border commands, and you'll find a lot of different options. For example, you can add a top and bottom border, a thick outside border, and even different line colors and styles. For a border that goes all the way outside and in between the cells, choose All Borders. Okay, one last thing I'd like to show you is how to change the placement or alignment of your text using the options in the Alignment group. In addition to left, center, and right, text can also be aligned to the bottom, middle, or top of the cell. Aligning the text to the middle center should make this data really nice and easy to read. There we go. See what a big difference formatting can make? Not only does my spreadsheet look better than it did before, it's also easier to review the data.
Okay, so you're going to go right here and
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
Nobody cares what you think. Here we go. And you're going to find that chart right here. You're also going to find another one. Our goal right now at this point follow what the video says and make yours look exactly like theirs. Okay, so that, and as you can see, if you just follow the steps, it'll come right together for you. So let's look at this next one. And this is all about number formatting, and that's second
Goodwill
sheet.
Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
You may have already noticed that Excel allows you to type just about anything into your worksheet. Along with text, you can use many different kinds of numbers, such as decimals, percentages, dollar amounts, dates, and more. To do this, Excel uses a feature called number formats, and it's really important to understand how they work. Number formats tell Excel exactly what type of data you're using. When you enter something into a cell, Excel will try to apply the right number format automatically. For example, watch what happens when we enter a calendar date into this cell, such as 1/1/2015 for January 1st. If you look at the number format drop-down menu on the Home tab, you'll see that this cell is now using the date number format. This tells Excel that we're working with a calendar date and not another type of number. If you click the drop-down menu, you'll see that there are several other number formats to choose from. The general format at the top is the default number format for every cell in your spreadsheet. When Excel isn't able to guess what type of data you're using, it'll usually just leave the general number format applied to that cell. You know, in this example, I think I'd like to modify the number format to use the long date option instead. That way, it'll be easier to read in our spreadsheet. And there we go. When you select a cell with number formatting, you'll see the actual value of that cell in the formula bar. So the long date number format hasn't changed the actual data in our cell, it only changes the way it's displayed. And number formats don't just make our data easier to read. For example, since Excel understands that this is a calendar date, we can use the fill handle in the lower right corner of the cell to continue this series of dates. So now we have January 2nd, January 3rd, and so on. Definitely a lot easier than entering each of these one by one. Unfortunately, Excel doesn't always understand what we're trying to type the same way that a person would. And because of this, Excel requires you to enter your data in a pretty specific way. For example, watch what happens when we type January 1st in this cell. As you can see, the number format has not changed. This cell is still just using the general number format, and that means Excel didn't understand what we wanted. It also means our fill handle isn't going to work correctly. Instead, it just copies the data from this first cell, which isn't what we want. To fix this, we'll need to change this value to something Excel can understand, such as 1/1/2015, or just January 1 without the ST. There we go. So you can see that Excel has applied a custom date format to this cell. And that's because it understood what we wanted. And now, just like before, we can see the cell's actual value in the formula bar. And we can even use the fill handle to continue this series of dates. Let's take a look at another useful but potentially confusing number format, percentages. Remember how we said before that certain data needs to be entered in a certain way? Well, when you type a number followed by the percent sign and press enter, the percentage number format will be applied automatically to that cell. In this example, let's say that we're working with an 8% sales tax rate. Now, as you may remember from math class, percentages can also be written as a decimal number. For example, if I change the number format for this cell back to general, it'll appear as 0.08, which is just another way of writing 8%. I point this out mainly because it's easy to make a mistake with percentage formatting if you're not being careful. For example, if we type 8 into an empty cell and then apply percentage formatting afterward, Excel will think that we meant 800%, which isn't even close to what we wanted. In our experience, it's best just to include the percent sign whenever you're entering a percentage into Excel. That way there's much less risk of making a mistake like this. Okay, there's just one last thing we'd like to point out. Below the number format drop-down menu, you'll see these small buttons with a left and right arrow. These commands allow you to control how many decimal places are displayed in your cell. As an example, let's say I'm working with a currency value like $19.95. Now, as you can see, Excel automatically applied currency formatting when we included the dollar sign in this cell. Now you can show more decimal places to increase precision, or show fewer to simplify your data, or even round it to the nearest whole number. Just like before, we're not changing the actual value of this cell, as we can see in the formula bar. We're just making it easier to read in our spreadsheet. Now that you know how number formats work, take some time to ensure that you're using them correctly in your spreadsheet.
All right, so let's look and see how that's going to work for us. Okay, go away. I don't want you to play anything else right now. So when I do this one here, I'll go ahead and download it. Okay, so make yours look exactly like they had it look earlier. And let's change our formats, as far as the color and everything, you can follow that. But when you do the next one, let's go ahead and change our format. Now, like you said, you can go up here and do date, and you can do different kinds of dates. Also, when you see this little box right here, if you click on that, it'll bring that up as well. So it pulls it out for you. So we want to do the long format. Which one was that? There you go. Maybe I just need to get to it from here. Mine's a little bit different here, so we'll go with the long format. Also, our body fat percentages, we just looked at percentages. And so you can see how it's done in a decimal. If you remember from math class, to go from a decimal to a percentage, you just move it over you move the decimal over 2 places to the right. To go from a percentage to a decimal, you move the decimal 2 places to the left. When we hit the percentage button here, Excel is going to go ahead and do that for us. And then if you notice right here, you see 25.9, it says 26. Now, if you do any calculations with that, Excel will use 25.9. It's showing you 26. So if you want to be more accurate, which we do, we can just click that button there. Let's go back and do it to all of them. And then how accurate do you need to be? Well, depends on what you're doing, right? I think that's as accurate as you're going to need to be on body fat percentages. So I don't think you need to do anything on this one. Let's just do the fitness program one, pretty it up like they had it, change your percentages and your date formats. I still don't like this date format. Let me see if I can find something else. There it is. That's the one I was looking for right there. We'll take the day of the week off of it and call it good. So anyway, so just do that one just like they showed you in the video. Upload it to me. Bada bing, bada boom. We have good grades. I'll save this one. It hit save, didn't it? Oh, save as. I'm going to change it. So when I go to upload this one, submit assignment. Yay! It celebrates for us. And then that's what I'll say. All right, final and last assignment. Oh, we got time. This is gonna be the good stuff now. This is where I'm our next assignment. Oh, this is not what I want to do. Where are we at here? All right.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
Remember using formulas to calculate math problems in school, like 2 plus 2 equals 4, or 2 pizzas times $10 equals $20? You can use these same formulas to work with numerical data in your spreadsheets, just like you would use a calculator. Excel uses standard operators for math equations, like a plus sign for addition, a minus sign for subtraction, an asterisk for multiplication, a forward slash for division, and a caret for exponents. You're probably used to seeing equations like 5 plus 5 equals, but in Excel, the equal sign comes first. That's because the cell itself contains, or is equal to, the formula and its value. Let's start off with a simple addition formula. We're going to calculate the total budget for June and July. However, instead of entering these numbers, in other words 1200 plus 1500, we're going to use cell references. Here's how it works. First, select the cell where you want the total to appear. Then type an equal sign, which is how you always start a formula. Next, type the addresses of the cells you want to add. In this example, D10 plus D11. Notice how the cells you've entered are actually highlighted in your worksheet, so you can easily confirm the contents of your formula. When you're ready, press Enter on your keyboard, and Excel will display the answer. Now, you may be wondering why we used cell references instead of numbers. It's because they give you the ability to change your original values without having to retype your formula. Excel automatically recalculates the answer, so it's always up to date. For that reason, you should try to use cell references whenever you can. To edit your formula, all you have to do is double-click the cell. If you make a mistake or change your mind, you can press Escape on your keyboard, and it'll go back to the way it was. Let's try another example, this time with multiplication. I want to calculate the total price for plastic silverware, so I'll need to multiply B4 by C4. Once again, start by typing an equal sign. But instead of entering the addresses manually, we're going to use something called the point and click method. Just click the cell you want, and the address instantly appears in your formula. Most people find this much easier than typing out the cell addresses by hand. When you're done, press Enter, and the answer appears. Finally, I want to show you a quick way to add a formula to several cells at once, specifically these 3 cells. Instead of retyping the formula above, we're just going to select the first cell, then locate the fill handle in the bottom right corner. Click and drag the handle down, and when you let go, the formula appears automatically in all 3 cells. Now we can see the total cost for each item. This is a great shortcut for duplicating formulas if you plan to use the same one more than once. Formulas really are one of the most powerful and convenient features in Excel. Now that you know how to use them, they can help you calculate all kinds of useful data.
What do you think, Jessica? That wasn't too bad, was it? All right. So once again, you should have this right here. Now this one is a little bit more complicated than the one they gave you. That is not the one I want. Did I put the wrong one in? I will double check and make sure I gave you guys the right one. Wow, I feel kind of okay. That's not the one. Uh-oh, I may have messed up when I uploaded it. I will double check that, but just follow what they did. I'll make sure the practice is the correct one. So let's go through some more cool math stuff on Excel, since I kind of have a captive audience here. All right, so I did promise this. There's so many things. So there's some information you need. Like if you're, and one of my favorite things is to figure a payment. I'm hell on the when I go to the car dealership and they try to sneak stuff in on you. So what do you need to figure out your payment? You need to figure out, okay, how much things cost, right? Any down payment, your term, like how long you're going to give you to pay for it, and maybe your interest rate, right? If you have those things, you should be able to figure out what your payment is. Okay, so we want to buy a $25,000 car. If you notice, I can turn that into money just by clicking that. Down payment, we want to put 500 down. And our term, we can do in how many years we're going to pay for it. Let's say they give us 6 years. And our interest rate is, we found it out this weekend, that if you have perfect credit, because the interest rates increases, that when we went shopping with some shopping with a family, they Tinker Credit Union, which is who we go through, their lowest interest rate is 7% right now. So 0.07, right? I can do that and turn into a percent, or like they said, you can type in 7 with a percent sign. And then we want to figure our payment. So right up here where it says f of x, the function key, I don't know if you remember that from algebra. If you click on that, it has all these hundreds of preloaded formulas. And the one I've used this some, so it's right there at top. I hit OK. And so it gives me a box that says fill in these boxes. Well, the rate is going to be right here, is going to be what we have here at 7%. But remember, they do interest rates by month. They tell you the interest rate per year, but they figure them by month. So you got to divide that by 12. Now, your number of payments is going to be your number of years, but you do a monthly payment. So you have to multiply that times 12. They're asking for present value, which is how much of the loan are you going to take out? So it's going to be that minus your down payment. And then if they're not in bold here, like future value and type, those don't really matter much. And unless they do, but don't worry about that. You can figure balloon payments and stuff, and we won't do that. When I hit OK, it tells me it's $417.70 is our payment. And I can even, remember how we go here and insert? I can even have it figure out how much loan is going to be, which is going to be, now remember they said if you hit the equal sign is what tells Excel next thing else is a formula, it's calculation. If you're a 10 key guy like me, and I don't want to go all the way up here on the top of the thing, and I just want to stay on my 10 keys, hitting the plus sign does the exact same thing. So my loan amount is going to be this minus your down payment. And it figures it for you. Now, at this point, you get to play with the numbers. So, well, maybe I don't have $500 to put down. I can put down $250. Everything changes for you. Your bank gives you the rate. They give you 7%. They give you 8.5 because you paid some stuff late last year, whatever, or they're just butt heads. 8.5%. Notice they called that 9%. You still see 8.5 here. So if I want to see it correctly, I have to change that. All right. Now, and one of the little tricks I like to use is I can take my payment times my 6 years times 12 months a year, and it'll tell you exactly how much you pay for the entirety of the loan. Now you see where the format is all messed up here. It just took the numbers. It didn't format it into money. Another cool thing to have is if you want to look exactly like this, if I click here, there's a thing they call Format Painter. So I find the cell I like the format of, I hit Format Painter, and then click the cell that I want to change the format of, and boom, it goes in and does it for you. So, just as an example, I'm gonna hit plus this plus my loan amount. Now, the reason I did plus, do my Format Painter again, is when you figure out your payments, if you notice it's in red, it means it's a negative number. What you see here is a positive number, which is when they give you a loan, they're giving you money, right? So that's money to you. When you figure out payment for paying it back, that's money coming out of your pocket, so that becomes a negative number to you, if that makes sense. So over a 6-year period on a $24,500 loan at 8.5% interest, you will pay $6,931.08 in interest on that car. The car actually cost you $31,000. Okay. If you remember, interest is the cost of borrowing money. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. I may have said it in another class. It's hard for me to remember. Now, this thing is set up so you could even figure out a house payment. So if you figure you want to buy 100,000, is that enough zeros? $100,000 house, and let's say you can't put a down payment on it, and the term is going to be for 30 years and 4.5% interest. Okay. Now this is just your payment. This does not include property taxes and homeowners insurance that they put in escrow. So when I don't know how many people bought a house, but the $506 is what you'll pay towards your loan, but your actual payment may be a couple $100 more, because they take that money and put it in what's called an escrow account. And at the end of every year, they go ahead and pay your insurance and your property taxes for you. So they kind of bundle that in. That way you don't have to come up with that money at the end of every year. But this is just the payment. So just so you know, if you buy a $100,000 house with 4.5% interest on a 30-year loan, that $100,000 house will cost you $182,406.71. Which means you will pay $82,406.71 in interest over the 30-year period. And a 0.5% interest rate makes a lot of difference over a 30-year period. $11,000. That's why interest rates are so important, especially over the long term of the loan. So it can just keep adding up and adding up. Oops, didn't mean to do that. When you make a mistake, that's where the undo button comes in. All right. Now there's also, you can change the amount of the loan, and let's say they want you to do 20% down, which would be $30,000. Okay. So that will tell you, once again, how much you're borrowing, how much you're paying over the life of the loan, if you have put $30,000 down. And so what making a down payment will do for you. So just a fun thing. You can see Excel is super powerful. My undergrad, one of my undergrads is in finance. So the last 2 years of everything we did in college was on Excel. And I remember one of my final projects in class, I had like 15 tabs across the bottom, and every tab referenced every other tab in formulas. And so it was really complicated and nasty, and just it took an entire 16 weeks to do the one spreadsheet. That was like our entire grade for the class. So it can get really big and complicated. Well, that about runs us out of time. Hopefully we did some good. Just follow the instructions. I'll check that third. As soon as we get off here, I'll check that third Excel spreadsheet and make sure I have the right one up for you. If I don't, I have a class at 8. So if you either tonight, maybe not, but probably in the morning, I will recreate that spreadsheet and upload it to you guys in Canvas, so you'll have the exact one. So just follow the instructions, make it look exactly how they like it to look, and you've done some, and we'll do another week of it next week as well. So any questions, concerns, any of that, anything like that? Nope, Andrew's good. Like I said, if you're a regular Excel user, you'll run through these assignments in a matter of 15 minutes total. If you're not, you may have to go watch the videos, follow along, but that's just all part of the learning process. We all had to do that at some point or the other. So, although I did see your flyer there, Jessica. Yes, okay. So she asked, will our discussion grades go up when others make their posts for us to respond to? Absolutely. And if we don't get enough posts and people kind of don't do them, I will find a way to make it right for the people who made the attempt. And I will do that towards the end. Because it's not fair. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Guys, do your discussions. Come on. Come on, man. Don't make me beg. You know, especially with a small class like this, everybody's got to do their part to help everybody else out. So, all right, no problem, Jessica. Although I saw about your flyer, and you know, it was really weird because I was going to do my makeup exactly like that for tonight, but I thought it would be embarrassing, like you thought I was going to copy you. So, so I had to just go all natural. But maybe next time. All right. Jamari, Andrew, you guys good? I have to reread the article to remember which 4 items I posted about due to my technical difficulty. No problem. I understand being out in the middle of nowhere. Just get caught up. If you have any issues, just shoot me an email or something, and I'll get back with you. All right. Well, good night, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, which means class is officially over. And if any